All right. Well, good evening. As Kelly said, yeah, my name is Patrick Blake. I am a dermatologist by training, but love everything related to medicine and particularly related to wellness. Um, so I think this is a really germane topic. It's certainly hot. It's really important and it's certainly very impactful. So let's jump into it. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So goals really for this webinar, we want to talk through a holistic approach to care by seamlessly blending weight loss, skincare, and aesthetic enhancements into patients' wellness journeys. Sounds easy. It can be, but it takes some real work. Increase patient engagement with more communication touch points and opportunities for visits. So talk about kind of how everything ties together, that one side of your business can help another side to unlock semi-passive long-term revenue streams and create a higher hourly revenue to significantly boost your practice's growth, right? One of the goals always should be try to create something that it's not always taking your time. I think as clinicians, we're very giving of our time, but when you have an opportunity to not be using every last minute of it, um, using it, work smarter, not harder, so to speak. And then to enhance patient satisfaction and loyalty while boosting your average ticket size and overall profits. These are services that people are interested in. All right, so some background. So GLP-1 and GIP-1 agonist use in weight loss is taking off. I'm going to kind of focus mostly on semaglutide for purposes of clarity for this talk, but obviously, or people say semaglutide, just not semaglutide, and then tirzepatide as well. There are multiple other drugs in this class coming to market in the next couple of years, so things will change. But I just thought this was fascinating to give a sense of how explosive the growth has been. 2014 to 2022, in one study, the month over month growth in prescriptions, 84% for semaglutide, 119% for tirzepatide, and then 254% for the Mounjaro form of tirzepatide. So um, that is crazy, right? So this doesn't even include the compounded drugs, which have probably grown at an even faster rate, and medical aesthetics, which we think is an incredibly fast-growing industry, and it is. It's growing about 1% per month, probably a little bit less. So dramatic growth. Many experts believe that this is one of the largest transformations in pharmaceuticals and really only behind vaccines and antibiotics in terms of how impactful it is for human health. Unfortunately, obesity and overweight rates remain incredibly high. The general health of the US population is getting worse. We're getting sicker, not healthier. Life expectancy is down, cancer rates are up, and I'm sure some of you've seen that even in young people, especially colon cancer. So all of that is tied, and not to say obesity causes it, but it certainly potentiates the risk, or increases the risk. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So just some context here. So as healthcare professionals, I think really, the goal should be health and wellness of our patients. And this is a revision to the ethical code from the World Medical Association, Geneva Declaration, that this is really what we're supposed to be doing. Many patients, particularly younger patients, see us at a much higher frequency than their primary care provider, some who never see a primary care provider. And just in our experience at Portrait, I would say depends on an individual's practice, but anywhere between 10 to 60% of their patients have an interest in weight loss. Really variable, but it's something where you'll know your own patient base, and certainly if you don't know about their interest in this type of service, it would be good to find that out. Takeaway is that we can improve our patients' overall health and wellness. We've basically got two options. One is to refer out patients if they express interest, or the other one is to offer it ourselves. And I think for continuity of care, for patient outcomes, and certainly for your business, it makes sense to try to keep those services in-house if it's possible. Patient education, of course, always the nature of this field. The better you are as an educator, it certainly ties to increased sales. So they tie together. Aesthetic patients have gotten younger over the past 10 years. depending on what you look at, but proportion of aesthetic patients is up of under 24, like 18 to 24 aesthetic patients is up about 50% over the last 8 years, so quite a bit more. They're very comfortable with telehealth over in-person visits, often have a range of aesthetic concerns, but with a clear aesthetic patients have a range, but I think more and more are more savvy and have done more thought before they come in to talk to you. We've seen this all over the place, right? That people are more interested in holistic treatment approaches, some of the, particularly in biostimulants, PRP, PRF, all of these topics. Again, same mindset of I want to be generally healthier. And a large proportion are willing to pay more if they're able to get safe and effective treatments. When asked what is most important in selecting an injector, patients state safety and results ahead of cost. And that's data from really all of the major pharmaceutical companies in aesthetics will tell you the same thing. This is likely the same situation for weight loss. These are systemic treatments. They do have a bit more risk. And so I think this gives you a real opportunity as a trusted provider to have a leg up on the large telehealth companies who are also targeting your patients all the time. They spend a lot. They have I think a good thing to offer, but what you can offer is different. All right, so let's get into the details, the blueprint. So starting the discussion. Starting this can be difficult, right? We're comfortable having discussions around aesthetics. Some of us are not always that comfortable even doing the full aesthetic consult when a patient's coming in for a focal complaint, which is something certainly to try to get better at, to have that habit and to really make that part of your ritual with patients. But in aesthetics and weight loss, it can be foreign for us a bit. So I think the best way to go is make it something your patient wants to talk about. So creating and conspicuously displaying educational materials in your office, um, post with general weight management materials, wellness materials, some of the highlights on just how incredible these drugs are on your social media and on your website. This stuff's fascinating. So even people who are not necessarily looking right now, I think still will engage with you. Um, Everyone knows someone who's been on these meds with a great response. I know probably about 50 people personally at this point. So uh, it's a great opportunity to either share your own story, or if you know someone else who's been on it, if they're comfortable sharing their story. And then certainly, like any new service you announce or you bring on, right, you want to announce it so people are aware that this is something you now offer. All right, going to the next slide. Um, so the treatment plan preparation. One is, of course, we need to gather a client interest in your intake form. And so that is incredibly efficient way to know who you should target, right? And I think a lot of us are sometimes not that good about doing this, really gathering everything that our patients might be interested in. They come in for one thing and we don't necessarily explore other options or other topics with them. But get the interest. We do this automatically at Portrait now as part of the registration flow. So for those of you who are affiliated with Portrait, you'll see actually if there's a height and weight gathered, that is why, to help you decide if a patient might be a candidate for weight loss. Review the client interest before you meet them. You want to come in prepared so that you've got the comfort talking to them, and you've budget the time as well. Using a PCC or another staff member to help with the pre-consult information to just prime that patient further so that they come with questions and a lot of intent. For existing clients, get an update on an annual basis, medical histories, photos, interests, and goals. And so that's a great opportunity then to restart that consult. If the patient's only been coming in for neurotoxin, now we're getting an update on everything that they're thinking about, and we should restart that conversation on what might make sense for them. Discuss their goals with enthusiasm and confidence. I think it's kind of a, in some ways, it could feel like it's a less creative, I guess, or less artistic area than aesthetics, but I think it can be just as satisfying. And I encourage you to to really enjoy treating patients, and they'll feel that. So make a plan. All right. So the treatment plan should include the specific, always, right, specific procedures. If you can, give links to further information and a description of how this is going to impact the patient, not just what this product is. For instance, if you're doing a filler, why you want to use this filler, and how that's going to change their face, and hopefully how that's going to impact their life. Anticipatory guidance around timelines for outcomes and downtime, anything else that might help to increase the likelihood they have a positive outcome. A skincare plan. So even as a dermatologist, there are patients, right, who come in and they are married to their skincare, and I just don't find that it's worth fighting that. This is a separate topic, but because that'll be the one patient who gets an allergy or something like that, and I'll be wrong and walk away with my tail between my legs. So I think, but a lot of people don't have much of a skincare plan, and that's a great opportunity to have again that more holistic conversation around wellness, internal wellness, external wellness, and then make sure that you've got everything else that you offer bundled in there. Ideally, I think diagrams are great too, just something visual on what someone should be expecting. And as a takeaway, it's great to have. I think for most people, the takeaways are they stay. Patients, having that physical touch makes it more memorable. For me personally, I lose everything, so having a digital copy is really helpful as well. And then just again, to keep hammering it, make the plan that it's so easy to just get focused, get, you know, pigeonholed on one topic, even if a patient is expressing interest, and really encourage you to avoid doing that. Okay, bundling. So want this to be comprehensive and holistic. So in that aesthetic plan, you can also include home workout and exercise goals. I've seen that with handouts where you're really giving them, you can even provide those for them. Here are their goals. Or you can at least encourage them to say, here's what I'm going to be doing. I need to know what you're going to be doing, and have them bring that back to you. So you've got some uh, mutual accountability. Package it as part of the aesthetic services you provide. It's all part of the patient's glow up. Have a careful conversation around fillers and biostimulants. So you're going to expect some laxity for folks who really have a significant amount of weight to lose in particular, but some laxity, some facial volume loss. And so, right, one of the things you'll see is these jokes about, or memes where it's like, you're starting on semaglutide, now you need fillers. And I mean, yes and no, that a lot of times that cheek fat, right, has descended when we're treating folks who've been on this, who are a bit older, and when they're younger, really the skin texture is pretty good. So I think either way, you can get by not, you can get a really good outcome with small amounts of fillers or biostimulants, right? Because we all know that it's product placement makes such a big impact on the contour, and you can make a heavier face look slimmer, et cetera. So I think it also gives you an opportunity to do PDO threads. Sometimes that can be very unsatisfying on heavier skin face. So I would just say, if they are getting on it, if you're starting fillers or biostimulants, I might think about particularly the biostimulants not doing it right as they're starting to lose a little weight, because they may perceive that as a negative outcome, that they didn't actually get the volume they thought they would, but you'll eventually get them to a better facial contour. Beauty bank memberships are really helpful. So advise them it's a long-term journey. Subscription, so to speak, is needed to make sure the appropriate results are delivered. It's really the commitment is probably the better word to use. The FDA tagline was 52 weeks. So FDA study was 52 weeks. Other studies have been even longer. So you do need a long-term plan. And continuing on that theme, there are a lot of these studies that around. People talk about, I remember first reading about this in the New York Times years ago, but weight cycling and how damaging that can be for the body, that really puts additional stress on the adrenal system as well as the cardiovascular system. And so this is something really to be avoided. I think it's something that people kind of take lightly and maybe even joke about with diet, and it creates it's a real problem. The other thing is that the weight does come back usually when people stop it. So in this study, a year after coming off of the drug, basically participants had regained 2/3 of their weight back. So now you've fully weight cycled, and you've got those same set points, in your body's weight that are kind of reestablished. And similar study, whether it's semaglutide, tirzepatide, same issue is there. So you really do have their best interest in mind, keeping them on drug. Expectations. Okay, so we all talk about this a lot, right? This is probably the first and last topic at every aesthetics meeting, that expectations are really big. Um, I think with this, just to make sure you talk about that, there's a big, a wide confidence interval. So in general, people have about 6% weight loss at a month, 11% at month 6, and 15% at a year. And I shouldn't say in general, at average. And so stress patients really, you need maybe 4 months to really start to see changes, but they should see something before that. And this is so dependent on how bought in they are to um, really making weight loss, a part of their lifestyle, that they're not just trying to get by with the drug. So lifestyle changes need to be maintained, ongoing cultivation, motivation. And so making a chart on the patient weight loss journey that's updated each visit so their progress is reinforced. So that doesn't have to just be weight, but that could be like what activities they're doing, what trips they have coming, what different, clothes size maybe, or new clothes that they're getting, all the things that are a little bit more fun than just the number. This coaching can also be reasonably templated through automated messaging. Can also use patient care coordinators again to really deepen your connection with your patient. So doing a light touch, sometimes something more automated, and then deeper touch, those patients who need a little more hand holding. All right. And so to get out the most out of the medication, this is a much broader topic that I think certainly anyone who wants to get into this should spend time putting together materials, or these are available easily repackaged. Certainly, we can share what we have too. But lifestyle modification, so lots of fluids, not bad fluids, not alcohol, avoiding high sugar foods, obviously, eating well, making sure that folks are exercising, hit workouts and cardio really do well for visceral fat. And then make sure you take this opportunity to have that connection again with patients at home. So your own branded materials, this is something that someone can keep in their kitchen, even not just their bathroom, where it's like, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm supposed to be eating, these are my reminders on the refrigerator. So you are really connecting with them all the time. Usually people should have about less interest in food in 6 weeks, and then again, lost weight 3 to 4 months. All right, multiple patient touch points. So this is one that is probably more controversial, that everybody from who I've talked to has different ideas on what you should do for follow-up. I am definitely a big fan of efficiency. So this is how, and I see patients I see patients 1 day a week in clinic. The rest of the time I'm working on everything portrait. So I do have some patients on these drugs myself as well. Somewhat for aesthetics, somewhat also for other psoriasis, hidradenitis, all kinds of different reasons to be on them. But I like this cadence of doing like a 2 week check-in, which I think is always good. Any new procedure for a patient, even if you're not expecting to see much in terms of results, any new patient and any new procedure. 2 week check-in, and then just kind of, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing what I thought you were doing? Are we good? Maybe a photo. Um, Week 6 to 8. So this is a good time, I think, to bring them in at least once more. It's good to get an actual, if you've got room even for, I think it's good to have a scale at baseline and a scale when they come back in. Ideally, they come in similar time of day even so that you get a real weight. Um, get photos, so body and face. They might be starting to see a little bit of change already, and then plan to dispense more medication. Ensure that their muscle mass is maintained. This is something we'll talk about more, but there's also an opportunity to add on to start discussing other body contouring things. If you are someone who wants to do really more holistic health, you could even, consider doing a laboratory evaluation at this point. A lot of times you'll already see changes if someone has, say, liver inflammation, steatohepatitis from obesity. Often you already see changes. And then week 12 to 16, so this is your 3 to 4 month check-in. Again, photos. Maybe this is a neurotoxin visit as well, continuing your aesthetic treatment plan, same thing, maybe other injectables and to dispense the drug. And then really every 3 to 4 months from there. So point is, I think you can do this, and I don't think I think my patients are lovely, but I think they're not super high expectations, but they're not low either. And this has worked really well for me. So basically, over the course of that first, really, what is that, 8 months or so, maybe I've spent like an hour and 15 minutes on the upper end of treating them. So it's pretty efficient. And so you can deliver a lot of results with as little as an extra hour of face-to-face time annually. But then the question is, should you? There are other ways you can build on this more. So these are things that take a little bit of extra time, but I think they can really, again, help you facilitate that patient relationship. Joe, journals go a long way. That's been shown in all sorts of diet studies that, right, holding people accountable. And if we put something in writing, we believe it. So their food, weight, their activity, how they're actually feeling. Again, opportunity for you to create that collateral and have you on their mind as they're winning this weight loss journey. We always like having someone in our corner, especially when something difficult is coming up. And this is still difficult. It's an adjustment. So even the social elements, people talk about that, where they don't feel like they want to go to a bar as much because they're not drinking on this, or they don't want to go go for pizza or something. So there can be adjustments for some patients for sure. But encouraging follow-ups go a long way. Just, hey, hope you're doing well. These can be light and fun. So seeing people where they post, meal ideas or activities, and you can ask them what they're doing. Remind them about what to expect. So if they aren't seeing weight loss yet, that's okay. Things can take time. And again, automated messages are efficient and can help too. All right, educating the patient. So um, just you want to make everything you need to know accessible. So handouts, post-care, social media. So basically, this way, whatever works, whatever medium works for someone to pay attention and um, to really get excited and also to be informed. This will save you all those calls that can sometimes happen where someone's saying, I'm not feeling so well, or I'm having diarrhea, or I'm having constipation. All those things can happen. And again, kind of beyond the scope of this talk, but most of the time you can do that as pretty templated guidance, and that way they feel confident. It really helps to build trust because nobody likes surprises in healthcare with their own health, and this way they know what to expect. It also, again, gives you a chance to have a more emotional connection with your patient, and maybe they're okay with you posting about it, even if it's de-identified. Just talking about it, I think, um, gets more buy-in from that client and from others. And a lot of people are comfortable, I think. It's a surprising number of people are comfortable talking about how impactful these things can have been for them. Okay, so objection handling, right? This is one thing that I hear everywhere, and actually, um, to be honest, like talk to patients about this more than I probably should be. That there's a lot of information out or discussion that you'll lose a lot of muscle too. Um, Often not, particularly in someone who is um, is obese or significantly overweight, that a lot of times actually muscle strength even improves. And part of it is because the obesity itself has a hormonal effect that causes us to have a more difficult time building or sustaining muscle. Same thing actually goes for bone density, which I did not really know until a couple of weeks ago, digging into this deeper and deeper. And the the other thing is this study on the far right. There are a ton of other studies like this. I just wanted to put a few in. But if any of you are familiar with spinal muscular atrophy, pretty difficult disease. People have very sometimes a significant amount of pain, difficulty with posture. And so this is looking at it in basically folks treated with GLP-1s and actually seeing an improvement in their strength in something that is a very serious disease. So point being, if your patient's saying, "Oh my gosh, now I'm so weak," or now I'm, losing all my muscle, probably they're not, and really just encourage them to, maintain significant amount of healthy protein in their diet, doing exercise, and they really should have no problem with losing muscle. Next one. So the side effects, yeah, so nausea, diarrhea, constipation. And so I think this is kind of funny, but I've had this with a couple of friends and family members who are on the drug where they are frustrated because they say, well, if I take that drug, I can't eat this food. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's good. Actually, this is helping you keep those good habits. So these are things that we're supposed to be doing anyway, right? Is like adhering to a good diet. So we shouldn't be rushing through large, meals, eating a ton of sugary foods, drinking a lot. And so we often do. It's fun in that moment, indulging and then overeating. And then you get your serotonin or dopamine, you feel really good. And then this is like my 1 o'clock donut that I sometimes have, which is always a terrible idea. And our body hates it, our brain loves it. And the way I talk about this to these patients is really this is a way to align our brain and our body. We're finally paying attention to our own body. And so if you pay attention to the diet, you may notice some of these side effects that, particularly a little bit more like light nausea, but it's nothing that is, uh, at least from the folks I've encountered, people who are encountering nausea on it, usually they know exactly why they are feeling unwell. They kind of, didn't stay on the bandwagon. And then sorry, tis is expensive. It is expensive. Yeah, so it's expensive, but it's not in the grand scheme of things, it's really not. So there's a cost, but we're paying for results. People often have spent hundreds of dollars per month on weight loss plans and really seen, no result, or they ended up taking a lot of dangerous supplements. Same thing, maybe they got a result, maybe they had a bad result. And so now we have something that's pretty cost effective that can get them the result that they're looking for. There are other cheaper suppliers out there, and if you look online, you will find companies that will just sell research grade products directly to patients and say, "Oh, this is not to be used. This is just for research." And there are all these salt forms that are out there that some pharmacies use. Some places are not great about doing stability or potency testing or how they're shipping the product. So I think really the tagline is that we're not cutting any corners with your care. And so patients again are willing to pay for results and they're willing to pay for safety. You can also consider, right, it's always better rather than cutting costs, giving something, giving something to someone. That's a better emotional experience. It's also a better, more cost-effective experience for you. So things that are not particularly expensive, vitamin injections, MIC or BCA supplements, those are just other things that can help, in that weight loss journey, not a big cost, and that might be something that also again pushes them to you rather than to some telehealth company or to just trying to go to the gym or whatnot. And certainly definitely offer something for getting them in for 1 year because that's what you really need. You want them to stay on it. It becomes part of their life and they probably stay on it, um, in the future as well. All right. So a couple closing thoughts. So, pricing, just the ROI. So, um, pricing, I think again, do a discount with a membership plan. You could do like a 10 to 15% off. You could do 1 to 2 months free. And you really just, the worst thing, right, is having to revisit the budget over and over again. And I still have some of these patients that I got trapped into this 10 years ago where they ask like just increase the my Botox pricing $1 and had to have that a discussion about that last week. And it's just like, oh, you want to be able to sell the result and you want them to just be coming in, and this is just again part of kind of part of life. So um, one-time budget discussion and autopilot is the goal. The price ranges greatly, and so I should say the price and also the cost. So some places do a fixed, what would you say, like, this is my monthly fee for this. That works for sure. Another thing you can do is like adjust it a little bit based on how much someone is actually taking, because the drugs are not that they're not expensive, but they're not cheap either. So you do want to adjust, your for your own costs. I think this is just I wanted to do a quick little scenario. So if you have 20 patients and you're doing like a $100 consult and then 450 a month, which is I think pretty good if somebody's on the full. I mean, for a full treatment dose, a lot of times people are paying more than that if they're at the full 2.4 milligram dose. And let's say half of them stay on for a year, maybe two of them, for whatever reason, they stop at month two. They're just like, man, I want to go have, some beers or something. And the rest are on it for maybe 6 months of the year because they just want to slim down for the summer or something. So this is like a pretty not great scenario, right? We're expecting more patients to stay on it, but I think this is reasonable. So we got $2,000 in consults, 54,000 for the 10 who stayed on, 1,800 for the patients who aborted, 21,600 for those who are taking it essentially part-time. And so that's 79,400 in a really super healthy practice. If you can get 30%, that's great. So you have 30% of that for yourself. That's almost $24,000. And I think, again, it's reasonable that you've only spent about 30 hours doing all of this. And so that's a take home of almost $800 an hour, which is really awesome. Um, and again, the thing that's great is you're doing something that is something that people have often like struggled with for years. You're helping them with that, and you're also again fostering that relationship for everything else that you offer, and that probably for a lot of you that you maybe enjoy more because it's more creative. But here is a chance to really make an impact on a deep level. So a couple closing thoughts. Offering semaglutide, tirzepatide, or any of these other drugs, it creates a 360-degree treatment plan. It it creates incremental opportunities to get in front of your patients. It can significantly boost your practice's growth without a major lift, increasing the ticket size, the revenue per hour, the overall revenue, and then you've got a new leads and a new market. So this might be that, patient's been coming in and this is now she's bringing her husband or whatnot. It empowers you to create even happier clients, getting more loyalty and retention in the process. So to get your patients on board or interested now, there are several other drugs again that are in your pipeline. And so I think, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, I've been watching to see when is semaglutide going to come off shortage, when is tirzepatide going to come off shortage, and I don't know when, but I do feel confident that there folks will be transitioning to some of these newer drugs, which work even better, and then those will develop shortage. And so we actually already have suppliers, which is crazy. We have suppliers lined up for those drugs, even though they're not yet FDA approved. That's how confident the market is in that idea. Okay, I think that is it. Yeah. So I might be able to do a couple questions. Sorry, I talked a bit, but and also you can reach out for materials, basically educational materials or more details on, hey, how do I what are the what are the nitty-gritty things I need to know about clinically. Are there templates or things that I could use? Just reach out and we can give you a lot more. I just didn't want to make this go 2 hours.
Yeah, that was great, Patrick. Thank you so much. Got just a couple questions here, and then we can go ahead and wrap up. So, first question, do I need any sort of special certification to be able to offer semaglutide in my practice?
No, but I think I love that that's a really great question and great thought. So we have a lot of basic clinical materials that are put together. And there's another webinar also that's a little more clinically focused that I did before. And really, I would say there's a lot that you can self-study materials out there too. We can sort of share links as well to other ways to learn more about it for folks who are um, uh, not like, and also just being part of Portrait ecosystem. There's a lot of things. If for those who are interested, we can. We always are looking for ways to learn more, and we share what we know. If you are someone who is not an advanced practice provider, an NP or a PA, of course, you cannot prescribe semaglutide or any of these other drugs, but you can administer them, and it's quite easy to manage this via telehealth. It's interesting to me to see how many patients, once they've been on this a little while, self-manage, which is good and bad. It's just interesting because I've encountered people where they're like, "Well, I only injected half of this syringe," and I'm like, "That's not what we talked about, but thanks for being honest with me." So they'll adjust on their own a bit, but the thing that's amazing is these are super safe drugs. So I think that's why we're really excited about them now.
Awesome. Okay, and then one more question. So you talked about materials that you can send home with your patients, like a journal and stuff. Do you recommend videos for how patients should go about injecting these weight loss treatments?
Yeah, I mean that's a really great idea. So one thing also is like the packaging, for dispensing them. Like I should have mentioned, but it's like having a written instruction is helpful, but yeah, having video either on your social or like link to videos. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward because you're just, subcutaneous injection, but I think that's a great idea because you want them to feel confident.
Okay, perfect. So I think we've got just a couple really specific questions that I think we can have you reach out individually to the specific participants to follow up with them. But I think otherwise we are good to go. And just to reiterate what Dr. Blake said, if you have any questions or want to learn more about the materials he referenced, please reach out to this alias right here, and we'll definitely get you hooked up with a team member who can share those with you. But Dr. Blake, any just last parting 30-second thoughts for the group here?
I think the only thing is, again, as a dermatologist, I specifically did not want to become a primary care provider. And it's actually when you have really great tools, I just to emphasize it is actually quite fun because it's about as transformative of a treatment as you can do. So um, I think it can be really fulfilling.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much to Dr. Blake for the awesome presentation. And thank you to everybody for attending this evening. And we will go ahead and make sure we get the recording in your inbox within the next 24 hours.